Okay, so we're going to be looking at actually solving a system of equations without graphing, but by the method of substitution. Some people get confused on these types of problems just because there's so many different ways to do them. I might show you a couple different ways, but I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible. So let's see here. First, let's solve the system by substitution. So that's what we're going to look at. It's those equations. Now, the first step, the whole idea is that we are going to figure out what one of the variables is in terms of all the other things. So we're going to solve for one variable, and then we're going to take what we got and substitute it into the other equation. So your first step is to choose one of these equations, and the way I like to do it is I choose one equation where one of the variables is easiest to solve for, meaning it's easiest to get it by itself. So here I could easily get the y by itself by adding the 3x over, or in this equation I could easily get the x by itself by adding the 4 over. So it actually doesn't matter which one, whichever one you prefer. I'm going to choose the top one just because it's first. Maybe in a different video I'll show you the other way around. So I'm going to choose this one. I'll write it down here. And I'm going to solve for one of the variables, and you can pick whichever one's easiest to solve for. So that would be y here. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. These are not like terms, so you can't combine them. You just write them. 3x plus 3. You could have written 3 plus 3x. It doesn't matter. Now I have one variable all by itself. And this is the way that I think of this. Y is 3x plus 3. I can either call this 3x plus 3, or I can call it y. Y is like the shortcut, the nickname of 3x plus 3 in this particular equation. Now what I'm going to do is look at the problem, or the equation that I didn't use, which is 2y equals x minus 4. I'm going to replace the y with what y equals. And y, remember, I could call it y, or I could call it 3x plus 3. So I'm going to replace this y with 3x plus 3, because that's y is the same thing as 3x plus 3. And then I can solve for x. So the first step is to choose an equation that has a variable that's easy to solve for. Maybe in the next video I'll show you choosing that equation. And then solve for that variable, and then use the other equation and replace whatever you solved for. In this case it was the y. Replace it, and then now it's just an equation with one variable, and you can solve for it. So 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times 3 is 6. X minus 4. And then you get variables to one side, numbers to the other. I think I will subtract an x, 1x over, so I get 5x plus 6 equals negative 4, don't forget the negative, minus 6 over, so I have 5x equals negative 10, divide, and I get negative 2. X equals negative 2. Now remember, we're not done, because the solution to a system of equations is an ordered pair, an x and a y. So right now I have an x. I need to be able to figure out y. And all you have to do for that is to choose any of the original equations and plug in. Actually, it doesn't even have to be the original equation, because this equation is the same thing as this, as long as we did the algebra correctly. So I could plug in the x to this, I could plug in the x to this, or I can plug in the x to this, and that would allow me to figure out what y is. The easiest thing would be to plug it into this. So I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll show you plugging it into one of those as well. So x is negative 2, so that means y is 3 times negative 2 plus 3. That's negative 6 plus 3. So that means y is negative 3. So the ordered pair where these two graphs would intersect would be x, -2, comma, y, -3. So that is the answer. You're done. You can stop the video right now if you wanted to. But I'm going to show you, I could have plugged it into this one here. So actually, I'll do that on a separate piece of paper. This is just an alternate way to solve. So 2y equals x minus 4, x equaled -2. So I could plug that into here. So then I would have 2y equals -2 minus 4. I replace the x with what x equals. So 2y equals -6 divided by 2. Y equals -3 once again. So x is -2, y is -3. Same thing. That's all you're doing. Let's recap. First, you are choosing an equation that has a variable that's easy to solve for. We could have done this one. In the next video, I'll do that one. Then you solve for that variable, and whatever you get, you plug it in to the unused equation. That's very important. You can't plug it into the one that you already used to get this, because then you'll just get like 0 equals 0 or 3 equals 3, and it won't be helpful at all. So plug this into the unused equation, into the other equation. Solve, and don't forget to plug it back in, because the solution to a system of equations is an ordered pair, which means x and y.